In the Averron Galactic Empire, a civilization that spanned thousands of worlds and boasted technologies that could weave the very fabric of space-time, the planet Earth was nothing more than a footnote in the Imperial archives. Its inhabitants, a species that had just begun to nudge the borders of their own solar system, were viewed through a lens of imperial arrogance as inconsequential, a civilization to be eventually absorbed and forgotten. High Commander Vrax, the decorated leader of the Averron fleet, had dispatched a mere fraction of his forces to what was to be a routine subjugation. The Earth, with its divided nations and petty squabbles, would be an easy addition to the Empire's ever-expanding territory, or so it was thought. The humans, however, did not adhere to the script of surrender the Averron expected. Rather than bow to the overwhelming show of force that darkened their skies, they prepared to defend their home, utilizing the guerrilla tactics honed through centuries of their own conflicts. The humans struck first, executing a brazen offensive that would have been deemed suicidal against a foe so superior. It began with a silent, blacked-out fleet of ships, no larger than the Averron's smallest scout vessels. They emerged from the shadow of the moon, undetected by the Averron's sophisticated sensors, which were tuned for large-scale energy signatures. With precision and coordination that belied their technological inferiority, the human ships launched a volley of nuclear missiles at the Imperial flagship, the Dreadhammer. The flagship's shields, configured to repel high-energy plasma attacks, faltered under the barrage of primitive ballistic weaponry. The explosions that rocked the Dreadhammer were not enough to destroy it, but served to throw the Averron formation into disarray and cripple their communication arrays. This small initial victory sent waves of disbelief and confusion throughout the ranks of the Averron. In the grand halls of the Averron Imperial Command, reports of the attack on the Dreadhammer were met with disbelief and mockery. Surely the primitive humans could not hope to stand against the might of the Empire. But as news of further insurgent strikes began to pour in, the laughter died in their throats. The humans had turned their home field advantage into a weapon, striking from asteroids, moons, and even hiding in the garb of commercial traffic to launch guerrilla attacks on the Imperial fleet. The Averron Empire, which had not faced a genuine challenge to its might in millennia, found itself outmaneuvered and humiliated, not by a formidable adversary, but by a tiny human army that refused to accept the fate the Empire had decreed for them. This first clash set the stage for a conflict that would challenge the very foundations of the Averron's rule, and unbeknownst to all, begin to reshape the galaxy's understanding of power, courage, and resistance. The planet Earth, suspended in the vastness of space, was a mosaic of blues and greens, seemingly tranquil from the viewports of the Imperial Averron ships. But beneath that serene appearance was a world bristling with defenses, born from the strife and wars that had scarred its history. The Averron's initial assessment had painted the humans as technologically primitive, their military tactics outdated, and their political systems too fragmented to pose any real threat. This misjudgment would prove to be a costly oversight. The humans had a different perspective. To them, the arrival of the Averron was the latest in a long line of existential threats, not unlike the plagues and wars of their past. And like they had many times before, they united in the face of adversity. Old rivalries were set aside, as every nation on Earth pooled its resources into a single defiant fist. Intelligence agencies, military units, scientists, and even private corporations worked in concert to devise a plan against the impending occupation. It was General Sophia Reyes, a brilliant military strategist and a veteran of Earth's many conflicts, who devised the plan that would become the cornerstone of humanity's defense. She recognized that while Earth's conventional forces stood no chance against the might of the Averron, their unconventional tactics could level the playing field. Guerrilla warfare, espionage, and the element of surprise were tools she intended to wield with precision. In the lead-up to what the Averron had expected to be a straightforward subjugation, Earth's forces embarked on a series of seemingly minor but strategically vital operations. Satellites that were once part of a global communication network were repurposed to spy on the Averron fleet. Cyber attacks, a form of warfare unknown to the Acheron, infiltrated and disrupted their command networks. Every piece of Acheron technology recovered, no matter how small, was reverse-engineered for weaknesses. And then, when the Acheron descended upon Earth with their declaration of dominion, they were met not with the white flags of surrender, but with a coordinated, planet-wide assault. Missiles and drones, controlled from hidden bunkers, struck Acheron dropships. Fighter jets, thought to be obsolete in the face of Acheron technology, harried the invaders with hit-and-run tactics. Every Acheron foot soldier that set foot on Earth found themselves not conquerors, but targets in a world turned hostile. High Commander Vrax watched from the command deck of the Dread Hammer as his fleet struggled to maintain order amidst the chaos. Each report that reached him was more incredulous than the last. Ships lost to crude nuclear devices, ground forces decimated by insurgents, and command networks crippled by unseen digital assaults. The Empire had conquered systems with beings more technologically advanced than humans. So how could they be such a ferocious force? And unbeknownst to them, the humans had been meticulously planning a secret barrage that would be soon coming their way. The rings of Saturn, a celestial masterpiece sculpted by gravity, became the stage for a confrontation that would forever alter the galaxy's power dynamics. The Acheron Armada, a symbol of unchallenged dominion, glided between the gas giant and its moons, unaware that they were sailing into an ambush meticulously orchestrated by General Sophia Reyes and her impromptu coalition of Earth's finest military minds. The humans had transformed Saturn's rings into an arena of war. The Acheron fleet, confident in their superiority, was caught off guard when sensor arrays suddenly blacked out, blinded by a storm of electromagnetic interference from Saturn's intense radiation belts, tactics derived from Earth's oldest war manuals, repurposed for this cosmic battlefield. General Reyes had predicted that the Acheron would view the rings as a mere navigational hazard, not a threat. This arrogance was their undoing. Human ships, small vessels that could be piloted by a single individual and built for speed and maneuverability, emerged from the cover of ice and rock that composed the rings. These fighters, adapted from Earth's various space agencies and augmented with military-grade weaponry, zipped through the Acheron formation, striking with surgical precision. Each human pilot knew their mission. They launched kinetic projectiles at the Acheron ships, explosives that required no advanced targeting systems, relying instead on the pilot's skills and Saturn's gravitational pull. The Acheron shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, were ill-equipped for such rudimentary assaults. The projectile struck true, rending metal and exposing the Acheron's vulnerability for all the galaxy to see. Commander Vrax, aboard the Dread Hammer, could only watch in disbelief as his ships floundered amid the debris. The humans' intimate knowledge of the terrain, coupled with their willingness to engage in such close-quarters combat, turned the rings of Saturn into a labyrinth from which there was no escape. Each turn brought the Acheron face-to-face with a new wave of fighters. Each pass resulted in losses that were unthinkable just days before. The skirmish was not without cost to the humans. Brave pilots gave their lives, becoming one with the rings they had fought in. Yet for each human ship lost, an Acheron cruiser was crippled, a fighter bay was destroyed, a command ship was sent adrift. The message was clear. Earth may be outgunned, but they were far from outmatched. As the debris settled and the Acheron fleet limped away from the skirmish, the rings of Saturn bore new scars, each a monument to the small but fierce human army that had defended them. News of the battle spread like wildfire. Across human-controlled space, people rejoiced, while in Acheron-held territories, whispers of the Empire's defeat sparked something dangerous and powerful: hope. News of the stunning defeat in Saturn's orbit sent ripples of shock through the highest echelons of the Acheron Empire. An emergency session was convened, with the Imperial Council demanding an immediate and devastating response to the affront on their might. High Commander Vrax, his pride wounded and his reputation on the line, proposed a counterstrike that would not just quell the human resistance, but obliterate it entirely. The Empire marshaled a fleet the size of which had not been seen since the Great Wars of Consolidation, a formidable armada intended to showcase the full wrath of Acheron. Hundreds of warships, bristling with plasma cannons and armed with legions of ground troops, set course for Earth. Their orders were simple. The human threat was to be extinguished, their homeworld occupied, and their will to resist broken. Back on Earth, General Sophia Reyes and her global command team monitored the Acheron mobilization with a foreboding feeling, yet not surprise. They had anticipated a fierce backlash. Intelligence, gathered from both technology and those within the Acheron ranks sympathetic to the human cause, had informed them of the Empire's plans for retaliation. The Earth's defense network, a patchwork of international cooperation hastily forged in the fires of the imminent threat, braced for the assault. The Moon, Earth's constant companion and the site of humanity's first steps into space, became the cornerstone of General Reyes's defensive strategy. Luna Base, once a symbol of exploration and scientific achievement, was transformed into the bulwark against the Acheron counterstrike. The humans had turned every crater and ravine into a stronghold, every research station into a garrison. The base, equipped with the planet's most sophisticated weaponry, was a fortress waiting for its siege. As the Acheron fleet approached, a silent vigil fell over Earth. Citizens across the globe watched the skies, their collective breath held in anticipation. In military bases, soldiers clad in pressure suits and armed with the best Earth's military tech stood ready. In command centers, technicians and strategists played out scenarios, calculating and recalculating odds. Above them all, the Moon stood watch, its surface bristling with the hidden strength of a united world. When the Acheron finally arrived, they found not the cowering, divided primitives they expected, but a planet unified and a lunar defense ready to unleash hell. General Reyes, at the heart of Luna Base's command center, issued the order that would ignite the most defining battle in human history. The skies over the Moon would soon be erupting with kinetic bombardments from hidden silos on the lunar surface. Mines sown in the path of the Empire's approach would be detonated against hulls and shields, and swarms of deadly drones, a recent invention added to their array of arsenal, would be sent in with pinpoint accuracy, causing a blistering attack on all foe that came into their sight. The Moon had transformed from a silent sentinel of Earth into an anvil upon which the fate of humanity would be hammered. General Sophia Reyes, with steely eyes and a calm that seemed to defy the storm of war around her, continually monitored from the main war room. Every screen and monitor hummed with data, and every corridor echoed with the urgency of battle. The Acheron fleet, vast and mighty, spread across the dark canvas of space like a tapestry of impending doom. Their cannons, capable of glassing planets, now focused on the defiant Moon. The first salvos were met with silence from the lunar surface, as if Luna herself held her breath. And then, as the Acheron expected signs of submission, Luna roared to life. Hidden beneath the Moon's regolith, powered by the very nuclear fusion the Acheron had sought to control, kinetic energy weapons, Earth's answer to the Empire's might, fired. These silent sentinels of humanity's ingenuity sent projectiles hurtling at the Acheron ships with devastating velocity. The Acheron shields, though strong, were not impervious. The relentless kinetic assault overwhelmed them, battering the once invincible fleet. The drones, like a swarm of locusts, found their way into the gaps and crevices of the Acheron armada. They cut a swath of destruction, an unyielding stream of metal and fire that pried open the Acheron defenses. Each explosion of an Acheron vessel lit the lunar surface below, a strobe of light and shadow across the battle-worn faces of Earth's defenders. On Luna, every crater became a bunker, every observatory a watchtower. The soldiers of Earth, clad in the vacuum-sealed suits that were their lifeline, engaged in a fight unlike any they had trained for. They repelled Acheron boarding parties, sabotaged landing crafts, and with every breath and every heartbeat, they wrote a new chapter in the annals of human valor. The battle was not without cost. The Moon's surface became a testament to sacrifice, with craters new and old, now cradling the remains of both human and Acheron warriors. Luna Base sustained damage. Corridors once filled with the quiet footsteps of scientists now echoed with the cacophony of war. But amidst the chaos, humanity's spirit blazed like a beacon. General Reyes, rallying her troops, became not just a leader, but the embodiment of Earth's indomitable will. The Acheron, realizing the moon would not be taken easily, poured more fire onto Luna. Yet with each new assault, they found humans resistant, tenacious, and unyielding. As the Acheron regrouped for yet another push, a curious phenomenon occurred. A signal, originating from Earth, broadcasted across all channels. It was a message not of surrender, but of solidarity, a single voice that spoke for all of humanity, declaring their resolve to stand against the darkness. In the aftermath of the harrowing Battle of Luna, the Acheron Empire found itself grappling with an unprecedented challenge. The tiny human army, with its back against the wall, had not only repelled the largest fleet ever amassed by the Empire, but had also inflicted severe losses upon it. The once indomitable Acheron Armada, seen as the unassailable spearhead of the galaxy's most powerful empire, had been humbled by a civilization it had deemed too primitive to pose any real threat. The shockwaves of Luna's defense rippled across the cosmos, reaching the far corners of Acheron-controlled space. News of the battle, and more importantly the human victory, spread like wildfire, igniting a flame of rebellion among other subjugated species. The Acheron's aura of invincibility had been shattered, exposing cracks in an empire that many had believed unbreakable. General Sophia Reyes, now hailed as the defender of Luna, recognized the turning of the tide not as the end of the struggle, but the beginning of a broader campaign for freedom. She reached out to the leaders of the newly inspired rebellions, offering support, sharing intelligence, and forging a coalition of species united in their desire to cast off the yoke of Acheron tyranny. The human resistance became a beacon of hope for oppressed systems across the galaxy. From the mining colonies of the Krill sector to the agricultural worlds of the Verdant expanse, species that had long resigned themselves to the fate of servitude began to rise. Armed with the knowledge that the Acheron could be defeated, they engaged in their own acts of defiance, employing tactics of guerrilla warfare and sabotage that the humans had so effectively used. Amidst this galactic upheaval, the Acheron High Command struggled to maintain order. High Commander Vrax, once feared across the stars, now faced the ire of the Imperial Council and the Emperor himself. Each new report of rebellion and unrest within the Empire was a direct affront to his command, and by extension, the Acheron's claim to supremacy. The Empire's response was swift, but increasingly desperate. Military campaigns were launched to quell the uprisings, stretching their resources thin and exposing further vulnerabilities. What the Acheron had intended to be a show of force, instead, became a testament to their declining grip on the galaxy. On Earth, the mood was one of cautious optimism. The planet had been fortified, its people united under a common cause. The global coalition, with General Reyes at its helm, was no longer just defending. It was inspiring, leading, and supporting a galaxy-wide movement for liberation. As the tide of battle shifted, so too did the strategies employed by the human-led coalition. Supply lines to Acheron garrisons were cut, communication networks were hacked, and propaganda was spread, highlighting the successes of the rebellion. It all set a stage for a final confrontation, which loomed like a storm on the horizon, a battle that would either cement the Acheron Empire's rule or shatter it completely. Across the galaxy, the coalition of rebelling species, with humans at the forefront, prepared for a siege that would decide the fate of countless worlds. The Acheron, beleaguered and stretched thin, fortified their remaining strongholds, determined to quell the insurrection once and for all. General Sophia Reyes, now a symbol of resistance across the galaxy, orchestrated the coalition's strategy from Earth, which had become the unofficial heart of the rebellion. The planet brimmed with a sense of purpose, as alien delegates, military advisors, and volunteers from across the stars gathered to lend their strength to the final push against the Empire. High Commander Vrax, facing dissent within his ranks and pressure from the Acheron hierarchy, recognized the precariousness of his position. The Empire's once unassailable dominance had eroded, giving way to a defensive posture that went against every tenet of Acheron supremacy. Yet, in a bid to salvage the situation, he planned a decisive strike against Earth, believing that cutting the head off the rebellion would finally crush the spirits of the coalition. The galaxy held its breath as the Acheron fleet amassed near the edge of the solar system, a shadow that threatened to engulf Earth and its defenders. But humanity and its allies did not wait in fear. Instead, they launched a preemptive strike, a daring assault that targeted the Acheron Armada before it could reach Earth. The battle that ensued was unlike any other in the galaxy's history. It was not just a clash of fleets, but of ideologies, a fight for freedom against the chains of tyranny. The coalition forces, leveraging their diverse technologies and tactics, pierced through the Acheron lines, breaking their formation and sowing chaos in their ranks. In the midst of the chaos, a contingent of coalition ships, led by General Reyes herself, broke through to the Dreadhammer, High Commander Vrax's flagship. In a bold move, Reyes and a team of elite soldiers boarded the vessel, seeking to capture Vrax and bring an end to the conflict. The skirmish within the bowels of the Dreadhammer was fierce, but the determination of Reyes and her team prevailed. Vrax was captured, and his surrender was broadcast across the galaxy, a signal that the Acheron Empire's reign had come to an end. The aftermath of the battle saw the dissolution of the Acheron Empire. Worlds once under its grip declared their independence or joined the coalition, forming a new alliance based on mutual respect, cooperation, and shared governance. The Galactic Assembly was established, a forum where all species could have their voices heard and disputes settled peacefully. Earth, once a planet on the fringe of galactic affairs, emerged as a leader in this new era, as well as to go down in history as an admired force of resolve, determination, and an example of virtuosity throughout the expanse of space.